Hey, it's Ryan with this week's Mille Lacs Fishing Report. It is April 21st and it is ice out time on Mille Lacs Lake. As you can see behind me here, that's Hennepin Island under all that ice. I would say it's about 25-30 feet tall and it sounds like a calving glacier right now. It is dropping piles of ice off it as we speak. The birds have already found it. It's covered in gulls, covered in cormorants, so things are getting started out here. The birds are up here fishing. I'm out here fishing. There's a few other boats out here fishing today. And this kind of marks the kickoff of the 2026 bass season. New regulations this year, we can start fishing right away. I think you can ice fish for the smallmouth too, if the memory serves me right. But I know once the ice is off, we can definitely go out and chase the smallies out here. It is time. We've been waiting for this for a long time and I didn't really know what to expect. So I was a little apprehensive. Some lakes you go to, you find that the bass fishing doesn't really take off right away once the ice goes off. Sometimes it takes a week or two for things to warm up before they start feeding aggressively. Today, I wasn't sure whether that was going to be the case or not. I had a lot of rods on my deck. I tried out a bunch of different techniques. I wasn't sure what was going to work, what was going to get them to go, but I knew one thing. I needed to look for schools of fish in very isolated areas. Typically what you find very early in the season is the fish aren't scattered over large areas. They're usually deep and they're usually isolated in very small areas. So once I found the fish, I picked them apart with a bunch of different baits. I tried a variety of different things, seeing what they would bite, and I narrowed it down to about one or two things that they would actually go for. I have a couple ideas for next time when I go out there, things that I'm going to try, but for right now, what definitely was working best for me was swim baits. Tried Ned rigs, tried different bottom dragging techniques, just didn't have any luck with them. Tried the Minnesota rigs, tried jerk baits, and what I found was the Minnesota rig just kind of moved a little bit too fast for them. And the jerk baits, even though you could pause them, they just wouldn't come up off the bottom to attack them. What would happen is, at the most, they would come about 3 feet off the bottom, but a lot of those fish wouldn't come up more than a foot, foot and a half off the bottom. And I just didn't have jerk baits that would get down deep enough to target those fish. That's why I switched to the swim baits. I went with the lightest heads I could possibly get away with. You know, like 3/16, quarter ounce, especially when you're out in that 22-24 foot of water range. Getting a quarter or 3/16 ounce jig down there takes some time, so you had to reel it slow. We had fantastic conditions today, glass calm water, you know, sunny out. It was a very easy day to fish out here, so you could really pick things apart and learn what works and what doesn't. What I found is with the swim baits, you had to be extremely close to the bottom, within about a foot or so. You wanted to make a lot of bottom contact without dragging it. So the Ned rig wouldn't do it, the other dragging style techniques wouldn't do it, but if you kept a swim bait down there and kept bumping bottom pretty regularly, you could get those fish to bite. It wasn't a numbers game today. I didn't catch tons of fish today, but I caught quite a few, and just about everything I caught today was big. I think the smallest fish I caught was a 2-pounder. The rest of them were 4, 4.5, all the way up to pushing 6 pounds. So a lot of big fish out here today. It was great fishing overall. You had to work for them. You had to focus and pay attention and fish slow. But when you did that and you found those schools of fish and you worked them over for a while, you could get them to bite. Now, there are a ton of fish in those schools that are following. They're chasing your bait up right up to the boat. You know, they're sticking to the bottom, but following it all the way to the back of the boat, and they just won't commit. With tomorrow's forecast in the upper 70s, possibly 80 degrees, that's going to add a lot of heat to this lake, and that's going to make a big difference. So over the next few days, with these warmer temperatures we have and some rain in the forecast, that temp is going to come up to the mid 40s and things are going to start taking off. It's time. Those fish are going to want to feed. It's been a long winter for them. A little side note to that is areas of the lake that I fish that had ice by them, like this area right here, I could catch fish. And what the water temps would be were about 39 degrees, and I could still catch them, but it was a lot tougher to catch fish in that 39-degree water. Warmer portions of the lake, which were about 41 degrees, it was a lot easier to catch the fish. I caught many more fish where the water temp was about 41 versus where it was 39. So like I said, when things warm up, tomorrow's warmer temperatures are going to make a huge difference out here. The following days we have warmer temps and rain in the forecast. That's going to make a big difference. This fishing is going to take off real quick here. In case I didn't mention it too clearly before, water temps in the main lake, when you get around this ice, it's about 39 degrees. When you get away from the ice, it's about 40, 41 degrees. That made a big difference in the bite. You know, just the mood of the fish, they were a lot more aggressive in just that 2-degree warmer temp water. If you got into the bays and the shallows, you could find considerably warmer water. There just were no fish there. I went up into the reeds, I went and fished the shallow bays, I went and fished shallow rock piles on tops of reefs. It was just a dead zone. When you went up to the tops of the reefs, you could see some walleyes swimming around up there, but you couldn't catch any fish. Once you got back out to that deeper water, the tips of points, deeper rock piles that were adjacent to those shallow areas, that's where you could find the fish. They wouldn't be all over the place. You would find them bunched up in smaller areas, which was nice because once you found them, you would just park your boat there and start picking them apart with your baits and finding what worked. A couple of baits that I wish I would have tried today. I wish I had some deeper jerk baits with me. I just don't know what can get down 20 feet. I don't have anything that'll do that. Maybe there's something out there that does that, but nothing that I own will do that. Or a blade bait. I think a blade bait would have been an excellent choice today. I didn't have them in my boat for whatever reason, but I think a blade bait would have done the trick on a lot of these fish out here. The blade bait's a lot different than a swim bait. Swim bait, you're trying to entice them to bite, you're trying to make a little bottom contact, that's how you get your reaction. The blade bait, you're hopping it off the bottom, and when the schools are really tight like this is, you can put that blade bait into a school of fish and hop it up and get fish to react to it. So your percentage goes way up with the blade bait when you have these tight schools of fish like we do right now. Hopefully these tips help you out. Good luck fishing and have a great weekend.